Welcome to my channel, everybody. Today we are trying out a new resin, Craft Resin. So this is a low viscosity resin, which means that it's thin. So low viscosity means it flows easier. It's not a thick resin at all. This resin is specifically has UV protection. It's odorless. It is non-flammable, non-toxic, and bubble-free. So I was really excited to give it a try. So as you can see here, I'm mixing up about 6 ounces, and I put it on a time lapse for 20 minutes so you can see how the bubbles slowly make their way up to the top of the resin, which so far as I can see, it definitely has a very small amount of bubbles left in it. And I can tell too, as it sits here, those bubbles tend to lessen even more. So we are going to be doing a paperweight, and this paperweight is an 8, it holds 8 ounces, but we're going to only be putting in 6 ounces to start, because I want there to be a little bit of space left so that we can do, a small fun design for this video. I'm going to add a little bit of Angel Halo glitter, and this glitter comes from enchantingfineart.com, and I'll be putting links in the description for all the things that I use. But I wanted to give this glitter a try for this particular project because the glitter is so fine. I wanted to kind of see if you put it in a low viscosity resin like this, if it ends up sinking. And I really love using these little fine powder glitters because they kind of stay suspended in the resin and they give off some beautiful effects. So from what I can tell, I mean, this is the first time I'm using this glitter. It's beautiful. It's white that has a kind of a gold glitter effect to it. But putting it in this resin, it is staying suspended in there. So I'm kind of excited to see how neat this paperweight turns out. So now that I have my resin mixed and it has sat there for long enough to let the bubbles come out as much as it can, I'm going to go ahead and pour it in here. And as you can see, there's about 2 ounces worth of space left. I'm stirring it just to be sure that the glitter isn't sinking to the bottom, and I'm going to make sure that when I stir it, I don't scrape up against the mold, because if you scrape up against your mold, you could scratch it. So I want to put a little unicorn in here. So I got some Scotch tape and I taped my little unicorn so that his little feet are facing upward. And as you go through this video, I actually did fail on this a little bit. I took the tape off before the resin was thick enough, and he ended up flipping over on his side, and I didn't realize it till it was too late, but that's okay. So I was going to also put some crystals in here, but the resin, learning the speed at which this resin thickened, I kind of missed my window, so I'm going to try that in another video. But so I let this resin sit for about 20 minutes, and I came back, and here, this is about 20 minutes later, because I wanted to add in some of these little pretty pearl beads. And because this resin is low viscosity, it is slowly thickening, and it's supposed to take 24 hours. And as you can see, it's getting closer to like honey here, but it's still too thin to put the crystals in. And here I am taking the tape off of the little pony. It did feel like it was thick enough, but I covered it, and then when I came back, he had slowly turned over on his side. So I'm going to try this again in the same video. You'll see me try this again, but the next time I'll wait until the resin is a little bit thicker before I take the tape off his little feet. So while we're waiting for our resin to thicken, I'm going to go ahead and mix up my alcohol inks for the next step. Now, these little fine line applicator bottles. I really love to use these for the mixing of the alcohol ink. So this bottle right here just simply has white alcohol ink in it. But the colors that I like to use for projects like this is to mix. So we put white alcohol ink in, and then I take an alcohol ink of my color choice and I add it into the white alcohol ink. So then I mix it up, and the ratio mix here is pretty simple. It's you keep adding your color until you see it's the color that you want it to be. But having the two colors mixed together does give a really neat effect. And so I usually keep these on hand mixed, and it was just time to refill it. So I went ahead and filmed it so you can kind of see how I do it. I put a little bit, I don't fill it up. I put about, a tiny little bit of white in there, mix in my color, and then I shake them all up really good. And then they last for quite a while. So here, when I'm showing you how I dropped the alcohol ink onto this, what I had done was I mixed the next 2 ounces of resin and I poured it in there, and then I added alcohol ink to the top of it just like this, putting on drops. But I accidentally lost that part of the video, which is why I did decide to redo this in a smaller version, and also so that you could fully see that. But I also wanted to keep the large paperweight so that you could see both versions of this. So all I did was I added alcohol ink to the top of this, and then I took a stick and I slowly stirred it just a little bit, and then I'm going to cover it for the evening, and I'll be back tomorrow to pull it out of the mold. So it's been overnight, and it hasn't been 24 hours yet, but as you can see, this resin is ready to be pulled out. I wouldn't set anything on it so that it doesn't, it would mar it or probably dent it until it has been sitting for 24 hours. So we're going to do a little smaller version of this because I kind of wanted to see this resin in a big thick piece like the 8-ounce paperweight, and now this is going to be a little small one. So I thought it would be good to kind of get an idea of how this resin is. And I remembered here to go ahead and add in my glitter. And this is, again, the same exact glitter from before, the Enchanting Fine Art white glitter that has the gold shimmer effects. It's super beautiful. I also made sure that there's space for about an ounce of resin so that we can come back and do our alcohol ink. And so this time I'm going to tape my little unicorn, and I'm going to wait longer than I did before to ensure that he doesn't flip over. Typically, when you want to kind of check on your projects, I would wait about come in every 20 minutes and kind of poke the resin to figure out or see how thick it was. And since this is this is a lower viscosity resin, it actually thickened at a slower pace than like the standard ones that you see me using. So it isn't ready for me to take the tape off yet, so I'm going to put my beads in, cover it, and I'll come back in 20 minutes. So here we are 20 minutes later, and coming in to check, I think it's pretty thick now. It's been, so this resin has been stirred and sitting here for about 2 hours after we let it sit for 20 minutes, and then I've come back and checked on it, and after, with work time. But you can see that those beads did move in the 20 minutes that I was waiting in between. So just to be careful, I did come back and check on this about 15 minutes after this part, and he had moved just a little bit, so I poked him back to where he was supposed to be, and after that he stayed put. I did not wait overnight. I let the resin harden, so I came back about 4 or 5 hours later, and the resin had hardened enough for me to mix up a layer. This is about an ounce right here to put in and do the last step of this of my design. So I didn't let these sit overnight because it's a 24-hour resin. And also, this is exactly what it looked like before when I accidentally messed up the recording of my video. So what I do is I drop the alcohol ink mixtures, and I don't put a ton of drops on there. I just do basically one solid drop, and then I add some of the darker colors in, a couple drops of white, and then I do a stir through it one time, and then I cover it and let it sit. So as you can see, a super fun, easy little project. And here, this is the next morning, so it's not completely cured. It hasn't been 24 hours yet, but it's definitely cured enough for me to take him out of the mold. So stay tuned for some close-ups, some close-up finished videos, and tell me what you guys think.